this government came, it became the fulcrum of their economic policy. Of course, it came with hardship. Naturally, it came with hardship, it came with panic. And you could see that at the time of the panic, refined petroleum products went as high as
1,000 plus.
1,000 plus.
All right. Welcome to Voicetv Nigeria. This is the State of the Nation with Honorable Ahmed Sajo. My name is Ilorin Mohammed Jinadu, your host. On national leadership and communication, sir, analyzing the economic reforms of the past administration and the current one, what is your assessment?
Well, let me start by saying, since our return to democratic rule in 1999, political expediency had always dictated our economic models. And because of that, we accumulated a lot of economic concerns that could have actually collapsed the nation. You know, we are at a point where, in terms of social cohesion, we are at the lowest point in the history of this country. Socially, we are so antagonistic to each other, and economically, we have a high rate of poverty. In fact, not just poverty, but multidimensional poverty. There are Nigerians, about almost 50 million or above Nigerians that do not even have access to toilets. It's that bad, you know. So we are we've been in a quagmire, and all of this happens because political expediency overrides, economic considerations, and that was dangerous for us as a country. So when if you notice the past regime, when the system was about to collapse, especially at the subnational level, what they did was to give palliative from the refunds of the excess deductions from the parish club debt, which in itself was an indictment of us as a nation and as a government. How could you borrow money from somebody and he deducts and deducts and deducts and deducts until it becomes excess? He's been deducting after the repayment has been completed. So it was those, some people just came up and, did some consultancy for Nigeria, and then we got a refund of the excess deductions. And so what the government did with it was to say, okay, we're going to share it as a bailout to subnational entities and all that. That was not actually, to be very fair and honest, that was not a wise decision. Wise decision was to have plugged all the loopholes and make sure that the system operates and functions optimally. Now that passed, we still went back to where we were. Subnationals were in quagmire, municipal governments were non-existent, local government, they were all almost dead. And then the system was still going, even at the level of the federal system. It's not every agency of the federal government that was running its affairs optimally. Meanwhile, we had two systems that were corruption personified. A subsidy regime that, again, failure in governance had sustained a subsidy regime that was not just a fraud, but it was daylight robbery
of the Nigerian people.
People bring in crude with a vessel, dock at Lagos port, carry the papers, go into Lagos, collect evidence of subsidy payment, carry that same vessel to Calabar, dock in Calabar, collect subsidy documentation for subsidy payment, carry that vessel, dock in Port Harcourt, collect subsidy, sometimes either stop in Warri or proceed back to Lagos, use that same vessel. So they collect subsidy for 4 times for one shipment of crude oil, which was a humongous, corruption. And then there were issues like bridging, that you want them to sell fuel the same price in Lagos, in Port Harcourt, in Sokoto, in Maiduguri, in this, and so they carry they carry refined oil from Lagos. They pay them bridging cost. Bridging cost means the cost differential in transporting the crude to a place so that you can sell it the same. So if it is sold at 100 naira, for example, in Lagos, you want to sell it at 100 naira in Sokoto, you know that there is a 50 naira difference, the transport cost to take it to Sokoto. So government pays you the 50 naira so that you can sell it at 100 naira in Sokoto, which was a huge. Meanwhile, they were not carrying the oil to Sokoto, at the quantity required. They don't sell it. I come from Adamawa. We've never bought petrol at the national price throughout the period when we had a subsidy regime. They always sell a special price to us, and if you go to the ECC, it was even worse. Yet they collect bridging fees. So it was a huge cesspool for corruption, and the government was unable to address the corruption aspect of it. So that was there. Then, if you see the dollar regime, people who had access to the government system, central bank and the rest, would go and collect dollar at 400 and something naira per dollar. They just take this dollar straight to
the black market,
bureau the change,
black market,
and sell it for 600 or 700 naira to a dollar and make their profit. So even manufacturers realize that, look, if I collect this dollar at 460 and I use the dollar to go and buy my spare parts or raw materials and bring it, if I manufacture, I pay workers, I do this, I do that, the profit margin I'm going to get may be like 20-30 naira per product, and the quantum of it does not pay me for all the stress I have gone through. But if I carry that same dollar and go and sell it in the black market, I make 10, 20, 30 times the profit I would have made. So it became a disincentive even for manufacturers to put the money into their businesses. So all of it was something we all knew. We were staring at it in the face, but nobody had the courage, the political will, the capacity to defy the political expediency to say we're knocking it off. And so when this government came, it became the fulcrum of their economic policy. Of course it came with hardship. Naturally it came with hardship, it came with panic. And you could see that at the time of the panic, refined petroleum products went as high as
1,000 plus.
1,000 plus. In fact, 1,200
something, close to 300
in some locations. The dollar rose, skyrocketed to 1,900 and something. So all these were panic measures. People got frightened. How is this going to play out? But eventually, the system began to stabilize. Today, the petroleum industry bill, which we clamored for, is what